Many Constant Worlds is a meta-disjointed journey through the Dark Tower series by Stephen King. I am Kat, she, her, and I want to thank all of you lobsters for your patience in me needing a mental health break and not putting out an episode a couple weeks ago.
And I'm Gianni, they, them, and I'm not a new host, just a better host. Than I've been in the past.
We had the technology.
Can improve them.
And we did.
Don't act like you're part of it. You are kind of. You helped. You've been helping.
How many surgeries have I sat by for?
I haven't had a single trans-related surgery yet.
No, that's true. At least not an intentional one.
No, that's fair. Oh, I do.
We had to get the defective part out. Anywho, so we fully support content warnings and taking care of your own mental health, as exemplified by me taking a week off. So here are the content warnings for this book. And thus this episode, because we're reading The Dead Zone, and goddamn does it suck. Okay. Rape, car accident, murder, animal cruelty, animal death, medical content, death, sexual violence, suicide, medical trauma, gun violence, grief, injury detail, death of a parent, sexual assault, child death, child abuse, terminal illness, blood, mental illness, fire, religious bigotry, pedophilia, chronic illness, misogyny, physical abuse, schizophrenia, psychosis, toxic relationship, racism, infidelity, racial slurs, bullying, alcohol, sexual harassment, stalking, sexual content, confinement, body horror, sexism, domestic abuse, war, homophobia, dementia, mass/school shootings, emotional abuse, and it's not on this list because it wasn't on Storyograph, but given what I read last night when I was finishing the section, fatphobia is pretty big in this one too, but it's yet another, Stephen King book, and he clearly did not like fat people in the past, and had feelings.
Yeah. I'm not reading this one, so if for anybody else who's not reading this one, we're finding out what happened in this section together.
Yeah. And I'm going to be a terrible narrator of it, and here's why. I'm not enjoying this book. I will say it's not because it's poorly written or anything. Stephen King is not this prolific of a writer because he sucks, as much as we make fun and shit like that, and honestly, both of us have discussed it. And we really want to try and shift more into a positive anyway, because we get so caught up in the razzing, but it is not what we want to present, regardless.
There's a reason that he was my favorite author growing up. There's a reason I was obsessed with The Dark Tower as a teenager,
Exactly. He is a skilled author. I think he's got some shit. He clearly has some issues with fat people. So, The Dead Zone is not poorly written, but it is a character-driven story, and as I said to Gio earlier today, I enjoy writing those, but I hate reading them. I like plot-driven stories, or at least something that's more of a mix. And this is not that. This is the story of John Smith. And the shit he went through after waking up after 5 years in a coma.
And all the colors of the wind. Can he paint with them?
I think those are in The Dead Zone. But, the whole, murder plot and thing, shit, it finishes at the end of part 1, which is what we finished reading through. And the actual, investigation into any of it, because, we had, little bits, oh, the murderer was doing this. We had, 1 or 2 scenes of the murderer doing something. I think it may even only have been 1. It doesn't really get started until, page 280 something, and it is over before 340. So, that's not the plot of, that's not the plot of this book. This book is about John Smith. So,
well, I mean,
that's great. If you like character-driven stories, you will probably really enjoy this. But I am struggling. I am struggling with this because it's just not my jam. The what if scenario, I think here was, what if a man woke up after a 5-year coma?
It sucks for me, because I do like character-driven stories. It sounds like something I would really like, but the trigger warnings just make me think I couldn't get anywhere near it.
That's very possible. This book is rough. It is grueling. So we read chapters 10 through 16, which is up through the end of part 1. Vera stops taking her meds because she did manage to start taking any of them. Johnny knows that she'll die. He saves his physical therapist's house from burning down. The press finds out. When demanding a demonstration, Johnny touches a guy and shows what he can do. The guy freaks out and calls him a fake. This is enough to send Vera to the hospital to die. And then from here, Johnny receives all sorts of mail from people asking for information. Sarah takes Denny to visit Johnny, finally gets that D, and what she seems to have decided is controlled adultery. That's my terminologies for that. I chose those words. So this is supposed to make up for the life they missed out on. What's weird about this, aside from the fact that, she keeps saying, oh, it has to be enough. Is that going to be enough? And it's oh, God, this is awkward and weird. Is that they go and, fuck in, the upper level of, a barn while her baby sleeps on the porch?
Why not the lower level of if they're on the upper level?
Because I guess she doesn't want him to see them. But also, I don't know. They can see the baby from where they're at.
How baby is baby?
He's a toddler.
Oh, that's fair. I could see, if the child, it has sentience at this point.
Yeah, he can kind of talk-ish.
Oh, yeah, I wouldn't want...
Not, sentences, but, he says things I think, blue or something like that.
Oh, yeah, that's awkward. There are no children around me, and also I'm not getting any right now in my life, but if either of those things were true, I can put myself in those shoes and I can see where she's coming from.
It's the putting the kid to sleep on the porch and not inside the house, but she wanted him to be in the sun for his nap. I don't know. It was just kind of strange.
I believe you that it was strange, but you are making it sound continually cuter. No, I want him to have a sunny nap. But maybe it's just because I'm thinking about my dog. No, he needs a nice little sunny nap.
It may also just be a difference in the world, because the idea of putting an infant on the porch for a nap, while you can technically watch, but you're kind of getting busy. You're not actually watching the kid at that time. All it takes is somebody to come up and go yoink.
No, but that's the difference. It's not an infant, because if the child was an infant, that would be different. But if the child was an infant, then I'd be just take the child where you are fucking. That baby will never remember and is not yet sentient. I mean, I understand that, humans in general are sentient, but you get what I mean. They haven't come online yet.
I get that, but that's what I'm saying. It's more the idea of, I think today we would be too worried about somebody kidnapping the child.
No, for sure. I'm not saying it was a great choice, but also, if I hear barn, are they out in the middle of nowhere?
I'm really unclear, because I'm not even sure if it was a barn, because I started skimming really hard, okay? I will admit this. But they talk about, going into an upper level of a thing, but it doesn't sound like they're in the house.
No, yeah, because if they're in a house, then it's extra weird. It's you can't be inside of here.
Yeah. It's just... all of it's just plain strange.
The level of fuck that's about to happen. You can't be within 100 feet of it.
Well, and they finish the first time. She goes, she checks on the baby, comes back and gets some more.
You know what? That is one of the more responsible parents that we've seen in a Stephen King book. I will say that.
That's fair. It's fair. So, yeah, either way. So, yeah, they finally have sex. Herb comes home and they pretend that basically they were once a family. They don't actually say that, but all of them kind of seem to regard it as this was what was supposed to happen. Johnny was supposed to marry Sarah. Denny should have been Johnny's and Herb's grandson. And so, they basically play house for the evening. And then Sarah leaves. Pretty much just says, like, yeah, we probably shouldn't see each other again because, like, in reality, we can't trust ourselves. And so it is mentioned then that, like, Johnny doesn't see her again for, like, 3 years, I think it is. It might be 2, but I think it's 3. Johnny gets offered his old teaching job, which he is looking forward to. Some dude from, like, National Enquirer type of magazine shows up and wants Johnny to play psychic. They apparently have a bunch in their magazine, and they're all pretty much fake anyway. They just make up random things. And if, like, the psychic actually does have a thing, then they put that in. But otherwise, it's just kind of churned out, and you're mostly just a face. Johnny declines and throws the dude out. He may even, like, punch him. I stopped really like reading this as closely. I know that he pisses off the dude and it sounds like some degree of a fight occurred.
Oh no, because all I can picture now in my head is the psychic fight from South Park.
Well, the dude from the magazine isn't a psychic. He's just an editor.
Whoever edits the National Enquirer is obviously the strongest psychic of all. I think the National Enquirer doesn't exist anymore.
I don't know that it does. And this isn't, like, necessary. I think it's, like, inside something. But yeah, I don't know that National Enquirer exists anymore. It might exist as a website now.
Man, that hurts inside.
That's fair. But either way, the magazine, as a response to the fight of getting told no and tossed out, they print up a story that Johnny is a fake and a con man, which he isn't really sad about because he's like, I really want people to stop sending me stuff, because, like, he isn't really responding to people, but he had opened some of it, and, like, he'd, like, seen this one woman's brother, like, die in quicksand.
I'm sorry. I'm sure it was emotional in the book. I just
of all the things that were expected to come out of my mouth, died in quicksand was not among them.
Because it's not, like, it is real. It is a real thing. It's just not a thing. Like,
so the neurologist who Johnny had seen the, like, mother of and everything, he ends up telling the cop in charge of finding the Castle Rock Strangler about Johnny. And the dude, like, waited about a month. His name was Bannerman, I think. Bannerman. I can't remember if it's an M-A or an M-E.
Bannerman.
I think his first name is George. In any case.
I don't need that information. He's Bannerman.
So he's in charge of trying to find the Strangler. So after about a month of waiting, he does finally call Johnny. The only reason being that the Strangler had picked up a 9-year-old girl that went to the cop's own daughter's school. Like, his daughter passed by the Strangler, even.
Oh, shit.
And aside from the fact that I think that this particular kill is the youngest, because it is a 9-year-old girl, finally made him go, you know what? Gonna try the psychic now. Tried everything else. I failed. Trying the psychic now. He goes, he gets Johnny. Johnny at first freaks out, hangs up, calls the neurologist, and is like, what the fuck? The neurologist is like, look, of all the things in the world that I thought you would at least be willing to hear out, this is it. And so, yeah, he kind of sees, like, the story about the 9-year-old girl and is like, okay, yeah, no, I'm gonna at least try, because that's fucked up.
Yeah.
Because, yeah, that's fucked up. So he goes, he meets up with Bannerman, and they talk, he gets the details. Basically, they had this box of, this, like, empty Marlboro box. And they're like, we think it might belong to the killer. Maybe you can come and touch it and see if you get anything. Johnny's like, well, you know, that's kind of a long shot. That was just, like, found nearby. That could belong to a lot of people. They're like, yeah, we know, but we got nothing else. So he goes, he touches the box, nothing happens, but he asks to see the place where the murder took place.
The room where it happened.
I mean, yeah, it's an outdoor space, but yeah. Which happens to also be the same place where the first one took place.
For everybody else, Kat is not a gigantic Hamilton nerd.
I'm not.
So it didn't that was for my other huge Hamilton nerds.
I think the only song that I really like from Hamilton is You'll Be Back.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Obviously not the room where it happened.
No.
Yeah.
Nope.
Yeah, I know, because I'm deeply disappointed right now.
The rest of it's fine. Anywho, so Bannerman takes him to the space where the fucking little girl was murdered horribly, horrifically. It was awful. It's pretty detailed in here what happens to her. Like, it doesn't go through it, but they tell you what occurred to her, and it's not fun. So there was a bench where they were pretty positive the killer had been sitting on because several children had passed by. And they all mentioned possibly seeing someone, like, there and things like that. So he touches the bench, and he definitely starts to get a hit, and he starts... So the way his, like, second sight works is that he almost, like... he starts talking, because that's the same thing that happened with Sarah. He just sort of starts talking, and he's not always coherent to what is coming out of his mouth. And it's weird, because, like, when he tells Sarah about her ring, he's telling her very much in third person. With this, he was starting to speak in first person, because he was starting to, like, speak out the killer's thoughts at the time. Because the killer kept thinking, I'm slick. I'm so slick they will never catch me because I'm slick.
Ugh.
And he is saying the word I, whereas, like, when he's telling Sarah about the ring, he's like, you were worried that this was going to happen. You thought blank. You were doing this. You got so busy doing blank, you missed this. And he was speaking in third person. He wasn't speaking as, like, Sarah. I don't know if that was intentional or if that was maybe just an oversight in writing the scenes, or if the idea is that he was further into it because he is in this space where the guy was actually sitting there and thinking it. Don't know. Have no idea what the intention there is. Regardless, so he sees it and he says, okay, take me to where he actually, like, did it. And so they take him over there, and he pretty much, like, he is in a terrible fucking space because it does seem like he tunes into the killer. And he starts, like, crying. I think he ends up puking because he is just so fucking screwed up from this moment.
Yeah.
But he tells him, like, I know who it is. And Bannerman's like, okay, let's go inside, takes him back inside, and he tells him it's Frank Dodd, who you meet Frank Dodd just a little bit earlier in the section, because you see him leaving because he's a deputy. Bannerman's like, nope, you're wrong. There's no way it's him. He's a good man. Johnny's just like, look, you fucking called me. I'm telling you who it is. You need to, at the very least, like, consider this. Bannerman doesn't want to. Finally, he gets through to him and is like, hey, look, at the very least, check his timesheets to see if he had the, like, room to commit these murderers. And they do, and he's like, okay, like, this doesn't prove anything. And Johnny's like, yeah, no, it doesn't prove that he did it, but it does prove he had the ability to.
Yeah.
He had the room to do this, but he stopped for 2 years. Why did he stop? Where was this guy for those 2 years? And so Bannerman calls up where he was, because he was, like, off doing some sort of special training, because he wanted to become a career cop, basically. And this is where you find out that Dodd's mom, who we already know was very fucked up, is also a boy mom. And she is the template for Eddie Kasprick's mom. She absolutely had to have been. Now, we get a little more mellowed out by the point that we get to Eddie. But she is doing the things of, like, no one else can take care of her. She needs to have her son there, all of this, and tries to toast any of his relationships with anybody else, not even just women. They call up where he had been, find out that a woman had been strangled there too. Same MO, but they don't have any semen from that one, so they can't check the semen type. Whereas all the other ones, they do. They have that to work with. Baderman's like, well, fuck. Let's go talk to him, because Johnny's like, I think that if you were to talk to him, because he is like a son to you, I think he will crack and he will confess. And so they go over to Frank's house, and this is where we get to meet his mom, and she is a terrible person, but it's not because she's fat. The reason I mentioned the fatphobia is not only is her description pretty, like, egregious, but he also talks about how her voice is like a fat woman's voice. And that just really did not land well with me. That's why I'm adding fatphobia to the trigger list, because I was a little like, oh, you've always been a little bad about the fatphobia, but now we're talking about, like, the voice fat women have, and I don't even understand why you would say that. Anyways, so...
Well, we all know I can't even make my, like, pushing my face together. I think it's meant to be like that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Or like, I'm not a voice person.
In any case, Frank's mom is like, no, I'm not letting you in. He's asleep. And George's like, I'm going to talk to him whether you like it or not, tries to push past her. And she goes, I'm unclear if she was, like, trying to hit him or trying to stop him or what. But basically, Johnny reaches out, grabs her wrist as she's making a motion towards George, and he gets a hit off of her. Turns out she has known about the murders. She's known since the very first one, and she's been helping kind of cover it up. Though I'm unclear if she was actively doing something or just not turning him in. But they describe it as she's helped him cover it up. She finally backs down because Johnny's just like, you knew! And she's freaked out now. So they go upstairs to his room, and his bedroom is still like that of a child. They look around trying to find him because they're concerned, like, oh shit, where is he now?
Yeah.
Because he's supposed to be asleep. They do end up finding him, and he has slit his own throat and written, I confess. And so basically, part one ends with the assumption that, having seen Johnny, he knew he was probably about to get caught. So he took his own life to not have to face trial for the several women and young girls that he violated and murdered.
Ugh.
And following this, while Johnny is being regarded highly by some places and whatnot, he's also just, because he's big national news again, basically his job gets rescinded because he's too controversial to have there. So, you know, that happens.
Fun for him.
Yeah. The papers printed up and kept saying, like, how bad his frostbite was from, because of course it was snowing, from touching the spaces. And so, like, there's some letter with Sarah, like, me checking on him and shit like that. And he's like, yeah, no, that was exaggerated. I don't know if that was or not. I don't care. If I'm being perfectly honest. And I can say, like, that section was fairly well written, where we're, like, going on the hunt to find Frank Dodd, but it was way too short for me. Because I was, you know, looking for that to be more of the, like, plot. It's just so much John. No, I'm so sick of just hearing about how much this man's life sucks. Because it does. It fucking sucks. And he just keeps getting beaten down. So I guess we'll see how the rest of the book plays out, and if, like, the plot with Stilson is much of a plot. I don't think it's gonna be now. Which, I mean, I think there was some shit in there about him, like, running for another office and getting a blessing, and, like, he beat the shit out of this kid who was, like, an associate's, like, nephew. Or maybe he just scared the shit out of the kid.
As you do.
As you can tell, I really was, like, top of attention for this. So, yeah, I am struggling with this book. It's written just fine. It's just so damn boring.
It's not one you would have picked up for yourself.
No. And if I had, just because it was like, oh, Stephen King, I probably would have stopped reading it.
Yeah.
I honestly probably around the 75 to 100 page mark. Because generally, like, that is where I'll DNF if I'm just not into it. Because life's too damn short to read books you don't like. And I struggle with DNFing sometimes, but
do you want to explain what DNF is for maybe people who aren't veterans of book talk?
Yeah, so DNF is did not finish.
Or could it also be in present tense of do not finish?
I mean, I think because you usually talk about, like, DNFing a book in such a way, it's usually in the past tense, but yeah. I mean, I don't think you use it as a warning to deter people from reading it, I suppose. I don't know. It's not really a verb, but it's kind of used as a verb that doesn't make any sense.
I guess because of, like, this is missing trigger warnings, obviously.
Yeah.
So I guess for me, could that be used like, hey, this is a DNF because of trigger warnings. Like, just for everybody out there, I came across this is a DNF. Don't pick it up again, because that's why I'm asking if the tense could change, I guess. Like,
I mean, yeah, I think because of the way that you're not actually saying the words, you're just saying DNF, yeah. Okay. You can pretty much use it either way.
It's more of like text speak than it is like a cool code.
Yeah.
This is how much I don't know what we're, like, it's also me that you're filling in.
So that's the Dead Zone, episode 2 for us. I don't have much to say about it, if I'm being perfectly honest.
Well, I have a couple things that I noticed.
Please go for it.
Well, I was joking about the guy's name, Bannerman. But that's like that's like a term for like I think like a knight would be a bannerman. Like, yeah, that's my bannerman. What, like,
in Game of Thrones, they would
call them like, that's my bannerman. And since so much imagery in the Dark Tower is knights versus evil wizards and shit like that, that's yet another place where I'm seeing some of the seeds of that here.
Yeah.
Where now his name is literally George Knight. Like, George Bannerman. Like, it feels like such a call out that this is a good guy.
Yeah.
Especially since, I think you mentioned somebody else who was who was a straight up bad guy, and then he had another name that wasn't Bannerman, but I might be
the politician he's an even evil man. His name is Stilson.
That also feels like important imagery, but I can't figure out how.
No, I think you make an interesting point, because even just looking at Stilson and Bannerman, look at the names themselves, the words. So obviously we have the ending of them, son versus man.
Yeah. Which
generally you regard evil people as being immature. And I would say that Stilson is a very immature man. Like, I would not describe him as... Obviously, he's not emotionally regulated in any fucking way. Just even the concept of Stilson. It paints an imagery, I think, of this very stagnant, immature person. And Stilson is making movements in terms of his political career, and he is moving up in the world in that sense. But he is still struggling. Like, when he is, like, trying to scare the shit out of that dude's, like, nephew, he even, like, has a moment where he says to himself, like, he has to be careful or he'll completely lose control. Yeah. And he can't do that in front of this dude, because part of the reason is that he's kind of interfering this way is because he needs the dude's uncle's, like, blessing to run for the next office that he's going for. He has to exercise a level of control, but he's still basically scaring the shit out of this kid with how crazy he is. He's just holding himself back from, like, murdering the kid. And then on the flip side of that, you have George Bannerman, who he does not want to believe it's Frank Dodd. He is actively arguing against it for a long time, but then he does finally at least come around and go, okay, look, I will at least look at the time cards and entertain the possibility that this could have been the person who killed these people.
Yeah.
I will at least open myself up to it, because at first he's really shitty about it. He even, like, tells Johnny, like, you're fake, and that's why Johnny's just like, you're the one who called me! I didn't want to be a part of this! And in what I would say is a very mature move is that as they're kind of simmering down, because I do think, like, fists get thrown, he actually apologizes for saying he was a fake. He's like, that was said in the heat of the moment, and I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Which I don't think, Stillson is trying to tamp down his crazy, but also letting some of it out. Bannerman's trying to be a decent person.
Yeah. He's trying to behave with honor or chivalry.
Yeah.
Which we have talked a lot and joked a lot about how Stephen King kind of always writes the same thing. Yeah. But in reality, there's only like 5 stories. Like, that's not only Stephen King, that is just...
That's everybody.
That's the reality of how stories work.
Yeah.
And I think Stephen King leans into that in a way that other people maybe aren't as aware of. Like, other authors either aren't as aware of or aren't as willing to admit. Like, Stephen King seems like he plays with that more. And obviously we know, like, the whole point of the podcast is that we are being meta and we are jumping through the worlds because Stephen King has set that out, right?
Yeah.
He is meta and jumps around his own worlds.
Yes.
He is literally telling the same story or set of stories in many different universes. And it starts to feel like it's because it's pointing a finger at the fact that there's only 4 stories. And here's how those stories go in these many different universes. We have George Bannerman. I think we've had somebody named Knight before, but we've absolutely had people named shit like Castle and Prince and King, and they tend to be the good guy, and that's how we see them behave. Sometimes they're wrong, but when they are wrong, they behave with honor about it, and they apologize. Like, that behavior makes me think a lot of how we'll see Peter be later in The Eyes of the Dragon. That is an aspect of King's work that I have always really liked. That's the multiverse thing. Like, I love the idea of reading, like, write me the exact same story, but continuously change the universe and show me how it's different.
Yeah.
Show me what makes it different then. Because the other thing that keeps popping out to me is Denny.
Yeah.
Danny? Danny? Like, so I feel bad for you that you're having to read it because it sounds like you're not into it. And I don't think it really does sound like there's no way that it would be a good book for me.
Yeah.
But I wish it could be. I can see why Stephen King would say that this is a favorite of his.
Yeah. No, I can too.
Because I can see how it reflects so many of the things that he's done.
No, I agree. And like, I do think it was probably very enjoyable for him to write. I think that he probably had a decent time with going through it. Like, there's difficult content in this, and I'm not saying like, oh, he had fun writing that shit. I just more mean, I think exploring the idea of a man who his entire life fell apart in an accident that was never his fault. He wasn't even the one driving that night. Like, that is how not at fault he is. He was a passenger in a car. And, like, it is depressing hearing how his life just continually keeps falling apart. To the point that, like, him getting his job offer taken back just really sucks.
Yeah.
I think that it probably made for a very interesting experience sitting down to write Johnny.
Yeah.
Of the whole, like, a power you can't control, but is something that everybody is looking at you and sees as some level of a blessing. Because you know, the theory, if you can see the future, is you're going to go and get the lotto numbers and shit like that. When in reality, he is struggling to even just get out of his dad's house.
And I wonder if it also is setting up an interesting dichotomy within the book as well of a good person with power. This is how that would affect this, like a good person. And then Stilson, who is a politician who has power to affect people's actual lives on a day-to-day basis all the time. This is how that power affects, like, a person, like, here. Frank Dodd is interesting because that's somebody, like, if he's a cop of any degree, here's another version of power. Here is a person who's not a good person. We know that there's reasons maybe that he's not a good person, but look what he did, like look what he did with power.
Yeah.
Like, here are all these different kind of representations of what people do with power. And his name is John Smith, right? That's why I made the Pocahontas joke. Mm-hmm. That is the most everyman name.
Yeah.
Like, here's what happens to an everyman who has power. Because Frank Dodd obviously has a mother who is an issue, but so did John.
Yeah.
So there's also something that's just innately there. Like, you can... And John is obviously also making mistakes because he sleeps with a married woman, and he also has these tragedies in his background. There is something innately good in John, or at least innately decent.
Yeah.
There is something innately very wrong in Frank Dodd and innately very wrong in Stilson. And this is what happens when you give people power who are innately kind of fucked.
And you're right. Frank Dodd is really interesting. And I'm curious to see how the rest of the book plays out, because I'm assuming it's dealing with Stilson. That would be my guess, is that we're going to move into dealing with him finally. Frank Dodd, even as Johnny is, like, finding out what he did and is horrified and disgusted by what he did, he also finds out about the clothespin.
Yeah.
And he's kind of like, I understand why this man fucking went crazy.
Yeah.
This is not the way you handle your crazy, but I'm shocked he, like, didn't do more, I guess, because he like could feel it and stuff on his own. And he's just like, that is so freaking awful. And to think that his own mother was, like, doing this to him is horrifying. And so there is no sympathy that is introduced for Stilson from the very beginning of the book. You are meant to, I think, dislike this man because he's selling Bibles and kills a dog.
Yeah.
Like, there's no part that is set up to be like, but he's kind of sympathetic.
Yeah.
Whereas Frank Dodd, we get that background about what his mother did to him as a child.
Yeah.
And even Johnny shows a level of, like, sympathy for this very fucked up individual. So what I'm curious to see happens is if that remains the situation and we keep Stilson at the other end, where there is never a moment where you are given room to be sympathetic to Stilson.
Yeah.
Or if he is meant to be that just, like, ultimate pinnacle evil for the book.
It feels very much like, because this is about the Dark Tower, I can't help but pull it back, where we have the Crimson King on one end, where you don't know anything about the Crimson King. He is just the embodiment and pinnacle of evil. He is just badness. He is fully at the other end, just bad and wrong.
Yeah.
There is just nothing about him that is goodness, right?
Yeah.
And then you have Roland at the other end, where Roland isn't perfect by any means, but he is meant to represent goodness and doing things for goodness.
Yeah.
Roland definitely makes mistakes and makes bad choices, but he is kind of the human equivalent of goodness, right?
Yeah.
And then you have the Man in Black in the middle, where I wouldn't say that there's a lot of sympathy or empathy to be had for the Man in Black, but he does feel more like a gray figure, where he's just not as...
We can comprehend him better.
Yes. I think that's a great way to put it. There is something comprehensive about the evil that the Man in Black does, whereas what the Crimson King wants is... it's a confusing level of evil, at least to me.
Yes.
But when we're talking... we all remember what happened with Salem's Lot. I had no idea what was going on. I didn't even remember that, like, the priest lived.
Yeah.
I was saying the whole time, like, oh, he dies, spoilers, he dies, and then he fucking is on a bus at the end, so, like...
Misdirection is the magician's greatest trick.
So it's entirely possible that the Crimson King is very well explained. I don't think so.
I guess we'll see when we get there, if we ever do.
We still haven't finished book number 1.
We're almost there. We're almost there. So, you know.
But either way.
You know what? It's the freaking ox from Baldur's Gate. Like, you cannot understand. You can't comprehend what I am.
And you know what? He was right.
Kind of. I mean, he just kind of looked like an ooze.
Because we couldn't comprehend
that's
what
true.
he was. Who knows what dimension he actually exists within, and in this dimension, he looks kind of like an ooze.
Yeah.
But maybe in the 5th dimension, like...
It's the hottest being in the 5th dimension.
Maybe.
Because honestly, what he wanted really made no sense either. Because, like, I get, kind of, was he trying to escape his, like, horrible thoughts, like Dirge? Or was he, like, trying to go destroy Baldur's Gate? I'm unclear.
He just wanted back to, like...
So...
Like, obviously, something had happened and he had ended up in Elturel. Or maybe that's where he was from, is Elturel. And he hitched a ride with the tieflings out. And then he wanted into Baldur's Gate. I don't know, but I do have questions.
Okay.
Because I spent a lot of time on OK Buddy Baldur.
Okay.
How come there's no thirsting for the ox guy?
Maybe not everybody's actually seen the form at the end?
There's no fucking way. There's absolutely
I know
no
that's
way.
There's no way that none of them have, but if not enough of them have. Because, like, a lot of people don't like to call in the things that can die at the end. Because they will die.
Oh my god, do they like die?
They can die, yeah, like, and just, like, you can...
I don't think I play on that mode. I think I play way too easy.
Even if you play easy, like, if they die, they will die. Like, that's the final fight, and that's them giving their lives for Baldur's Gate. But...
No, wait, I didn't know that, like, when they die, though, that they're... Because, like, I call the shit out of everybody. I don't call him because that's another turn that has to happen. And there's so much shit. I don't call pretty much anybody that I then have to control in any way. Like,
the ones that will actually show up and fight, if they die there, they are dying. The only exception to that would probably be if you actually call in Yerger, because he's not dying on his plane. He's just going to go back to the Nether realm? He's going back to hell, basically.
Yeah.
He's going back to his actual plane. He can die there because he's not actually going to die.
Sick.
But, yeah, like, because that's how people were losing the tiefling achievement. The, like, keeping all of the tieflings alive, is they were calling in, what's his face? oh my god, what is his face? The one that you saved from the Mind Flayer colony and...
Oh, yeah. Oh, no. Yeah, I know who you mean, but, like, the one with the meme, and he's got the phone, and he's looking over his glasses.
Oh my god, I'm just gonna look it up. I have to know now.
I know,
I
I know who you mean.
Yeah,
but, like,
but now I gotta figure out what the fuck his name is.
Because all I can remember is Roland's Firestorm, because I use that every fucking chance I get during that fight. Which might only be like once or twice. But that's very useful, and nobody dies for sure, because he's doing it from Loroakin's tower. Which people thirst for Loroakin, which makes me... I don't judge. I do not like to yuck anybody's yum, except for if you are after Loroakin, you're gross.
You are gross.
You're nasty.
His name is Zevlor.
Zevlor!
If you call in Zevlor in the final fight and he dies, you will lose that achievement if you haven't already gotten it, because he counts as one of keeping all the tieflings alive that can stay alive.
I thought you got that achievement, like, before that fight, though.
You get it at the end of the game. You get it during the credits, because I got it my first run, and I was like...
But you know what meme I'm talking about, right?
Yeah, no, I do.
And then sometimes they'll add in the hand with the nails, too. Yeah. It's like... yeah.
But yeah, if you call them in, they can die. I imagine it might also be different with, like, Aelin. I don't know if she can actually die. That's why I always call her in. But also, she fucks up my shit in Act 2. I don't care. Isabel can do better.
I like Aelin.
Most people do. Most people love Aelin, and you know what? Until she fucks up my persuasion rolls, where I'm like, no, he's backing down. Now I have to do his big ass fucking fight because of you. I don't want to do that fight. I hate that fight.
Oh man,
the fight at the end of Act 2, I don't want to do. I want to talk my way out of it. My bards don't want to fight.
That's your first problem. I've recently got very into paladins. I still love a good wizard, but, like, man, paladins.
I mean, basically paladins are just, like, jock wizards.
Yeah, I know. It's like wizards, but they have HP.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
Oh, man, this is...
Should we just do a Baldur's Gate podcast?
Yeah, can we not have to read the rest of this book?
We've come so far.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, so I forgot to write down what the last card was, but it's written down in my notebook, so I'm gonna go grab that.
Okay. I'll pull a card while you do that. I heard you shuffling the cards, so I know they're shuffled, but...
They are, in fact.
Oh my god, what card even is this? Please enjoy this, light tarot card ASMR while Kat is gone.
Oh man, I would have remembered correctly.
I was giving the people tarot card ASMR while you were gone.
Alright, so, last time, we pulled the Three of Pentacles. Which was about a group project. Then again, I just like to make group project jokes. Anywho, so the three symbolized successful teamwork. A group of different people coming together to achieve an early success.
Well, today this took me a minute to figure out what the fuck card this is. I'm pretty sure this is the Ten of Wands.
Yes.
Yeah. Today we have pulled the Ten of Wands, and on the Ten of Wands, there is a masculine appearing figure holding, 10 branches. They're meant to be the wands.
Yeah.
But he's gathering the branches. He looks like it's kind of a burden, but he's carrying them towards, like, a village off in the distance. Blue cloudless sky. very, like, blonde-looking dude. Honestly, kind of a boring card compared to some of the cards we've pulled, so...
Well, you hit on one of the things about it.
Boring? Is it boring?
No. I mean, kind of, in a way. The 10 is a sign of burden and responsibility. Being depended on is a good thing, but beware of being overworked. All work and no play make Johnny a dull boy.
This is how we're gonna start our Baldur's Gate podcast instead of...
We're doing what we love. What I love, which is just Baldur's Gate.
Hey, I have that little handheld thing now. I can play on that.
Well, I'm not saying that you don't, but you also play other games.
That's true, I do.
I played Baldur's Gate.
That's not... You played... Wait, what was the one that we played for your birthday?
We played Split Fiction, which is a great game.
Split Fiction was very good.
Haze Light, great job, love it. No notes.
Well... I don't think I've ever had no notes about anything in my life.
You know what, though? Like, it's more a matter of... There's a lot of crap out there.
Would you say that there's other worlds?
I mean, yeah, but first we gotta tell them that we're gonna finish reading this crappy book. This book is fine. Yeah. I'm just being a bitch. Finish reading The Dead Zone if you're reading along with us. That's gonna be part 2 and 3, and I think an epilogue. But yeah, I guess there are other places.
Well, maybe in those other worlds, if you go to them, you don't have to finish reading The Dead Zone. But if you really like this book, tell us, and tell us what. Like, tell us what makes this book very good.
Yeah, please engage with us, because I am not a character-driven story person.
And I've actually just been emphatically told before I even tried to start it that I probably shouldn't read it.
Safety first.
Yeah, so I'm kind of not allowed at this point.
Yeah.
Okay, bye.
Hey lobsters, if you just can't get enough of us or want to see the shenanigans of Minnie and Connie the Mini Constant Lobsters, you can follow us on Blue Sky or check out our Patreon. On Patreon, you can follow us for free and get access to all of our movie watch-throughs, you know, in case you really wanted to know what it was like to have us in the room with you, really wishing we'd be quiet so you could watch the damn movie. Okay, bye.